every time I come to Saudi Arabia, and it's just
Right.
like, we don't have to lock the door. We don't have a bodyguard.
Mhm.
Nobody's carrying a gun.
Yeah.
That made me feel like coming back home made me feel so safe.
Hello and welcome to the Mayman Show. We are coming to you from our studios in Riyadh, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Our guest today is a very renowned chef, author, and entrepreneur. We have Miss Eman Gazzaz. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, Eman, with your background, with your father being a diplomat, you always wanted to emulate your father's career and become a diplomat, but you have done so in a different way, taking the Saudi kitchen to the rest of the world. And you've lived in different parts of the world, in different continents like Morocco and Pakistan and other places. So how did just that background and experience influence how you present the Saudi cuisine to the world?
Yeah. So I was born, let me give a quick background of who I am. I was born in Brazil. I lived in 6 different countries.
Yeah.
My dad was a diplomat. I was a daughter of a diplomat.
Okay.
My parents are very diverse in there. They're not just diplomats. They are creative in many ways. My dad is a gardener. He collects old antique cars. He collects old pocket watches. And I have some pictures actually of our garden back home when we were living in Pakistan.
Oh, nice. Which parts of Pakistan?
So we lived in 2 parts in Pakistan. Yeah. We lived in Karachi and we lived in Islamabad.
Yeah. Islamabad is a lovely place. I lived there myself.
Yes, amazing. It's a beautiful country. The people are so beautiful. Living in 6 countries and just being exposed to the world and the different cultures they have is just it's like, it creates something in you as an individual. It makes you more connected somehow.
Yeah.
Without really having that connection and having that diversity, I think it added a lot to me when it comes to my cooking. But going back to my family, my dad was a gardener, so these are some pictures of our house in Karachi when we were living there.
Mm-hmm.
We had a beautiful garden.
It's a very lovely house.
And my dad used to get into these competitions and he used to win first prize every year.
So how much time would he spend gardening and keeping up with all that beautiful?
So when the season for the flowers come, the season for the garden, it's a couple of months before they start blooming.
Yeah.
And then he would have a big party. This is with Benazir Bhutto.
Yeah.
My parents in one of the events. My mom was wearing traditional clothes. Mm-hmm. So they were very social people. They loved inviting people and having different kinds of functions and events. And my mom always insisted on cooking Saudi food.
Yeah.
And these are one of the pictures of the tables, of the Saudi tables. And people used to love the food. Like, nobody knows anything about Saudi Arabia, like the food. And, food is culture.
Yes, of course. I always used to say if all the UN members brought their traditional dishes, we would solve half of the world's problems.
Exactly. Food does not involve politics. It does not involve religion. It doesn't involve any of that. And that's what's so beautiful about it. Mm-hmm. So I lived in 6 different countries, and these are some of the pictures of me living abroad.
Yeah.
We lived here in Pakistan. This was in Egypt when we traveled. That's me as a baby. Mm-hmm. That's when we were in Islamabad.
All right.
This is when we lived in the Philippines. Sorry.
Ah, nice. Which parts of the Philippines?
Manila. So we lived there for 5 years.
All right.
I went to international schools, American schools. I didn't study in Arabic.
Okay. So we have a lot of similarities. Same thing. And yes.
We do have a lot of similarities.
My family also used to have big functions in Islamabad. And my mom used to always insist on bringing Saudi food to to witness.
Definitely, yeah. And everybody used to be like, "Wow, Iman," like, I used to hear like my parents' friends say always like, "Wow, your food is amazing," and I never appreciated Saudi food till I started seeing these comments.
Mm-hmm.
These are some pictures of us when we were living in Ghana.
Yeah.
That's me and my sisters and my brothers and my dad.
All right.
And in each of these countries we lived in, there was like always chaos because when we were living in the Philippines, there were typhoons.
Okay.
And they were very scary because it comes with tornadoes and it comes with like, houses being destroyed. And we had to live through that. I remember my mom used to take us when there's a typhoon. She used to take us in the middle of the house and she used to hug us. Like, I can't forget this experience. She used to hug us and she would be praying Quran, and she was crying and we would be crying. It was so scary. Like the wind was so strong, the sound was so loud. That was one. When we lived in Algeria, my dad was the ambassador there. We experienced the earthquake that happened 20 years ago in Algeria, and there were so many people who died. When we lived in Karachi during the Gulf War, there was a issue between Muslims, Shias and Sunnis.
Yeah.
So the Shias threw a bomb at our house.
Okay.
When we lived in Ghana, my brother got the malaria. He almost died. We couldn't find the medicine for him. So that was like each country we lived in, we experienced not only the culture and the country and the people,
trials and tribulations and basically the tension.
Exactly. There were a lot of like experiences that we'll never forget. So it's something that we carry on with us and we move on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what made me as Eman, what changed me as somebody who lived abroad, appreciate.
Okay.
I appreciate coming to Saudi Arabia and the safety and the security that we experienced.
Mm-hmm.
When I was studying in the American school in Karachi, one of my classmates, he got kidnapped.
Okay.
And he was kidnapped for 6 months.
Right.
And we used to travel in the car with a bodyguard and,
I know how that is. I grew up.
Exactly.
I grew up with the same
bulletproof
setting.
cars and things like that. And every time I come to Saudi Arabia, and it's just like, we don't have to lock the door. We don't have a bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's carrying a gun.
Yeah.
That made me feel like coming back home made me feel so safe.
Okay.
People think living abroad, living in 6 countries, it's amazing. It's a nice experience.
Obviously, it's a life-changing experience.
Yeah, it gives you a different perspective in life, where you see the poverty when you live in these countries, third world countries. You see the poverty, the people begging on the streets, and you come back home here and you don't see anybody begging on the street. You don't see kids with cut off legs and hands, and you come back and you say, thank God for my country. And that was like 25 years ago.
All right.
فأحمد ربي. This is the story of who I am.
Okay.
And where we come from. So my dad cooks as well. My mom cooks as well. The whole family cooks. We're like a Greek family.
Okay.
So every time we make food, it was always our gathering was surrounded around food. But my dad, his cooking is very traditional, like شغل البار.
Yeah.
It's very traditional. So when we go out in the open, we go to the desert or in the garden, in the greenery, he likes to cook outdoor.
There's something about outdoor kapsa that just is unrivaled.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God, like cooking food outdoor is just at another level.
Yeah.
The taste, the experience. And I do have a very interesting experience with my dad. Every time we go out outdoor, he always cooks the same dish. And it's actually one of my favorite dishes, which is salik.
Salik. Oh, yes.
I used to help him do cook the chicken, strain the stock, and take the food out. And I grew up tasting these flavors and just eating the salik outdoor. And being part of that experience just made me so close to Salik. Like my daughter also loves warda. She loves Salik as
What
well.
kid doesn't? It's like a universally loved dish by children.
It's
here.
it's a food for picky eaters.
Yes.
And my mom was always known, to do the salads and put the duggus and the pickled vegetables and things like that. So everybody had a role.
Okay.
From both sides of my parents. They were very good cooks. My dad is a very good at barbecuing. Like he loves to go to the beach every weekend. When we were living abroad, he always rented a place. And he used to make the barbecue and marinate it and barbecue it. We had a chef.
Okay.
But
it was something that he loved to do.
Yeah,
himself,
the kitchen for him is like
I like to do the same thing. I mean, to me, it's not about like the experience itself.
Yeah,
it's a good way to basically, I don't know. To me, it's like therapy.
Some people do it for meditation.
Yeah.
Some people do it because they love to, taste good food.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is also a very good cook, but her food was very international. Yeah. My dad was the traditional. My mom was international, and she made international food when she cooks at home for us. But when we had guests over, like the table was filled with like Saudi dishes, pure flavors of Saudi food. And I came back to Saudi, being daughter of an ambassador after like more than 25 years I've been abroad.
Okay.
I came back to Saudi hoping that I'm going to be a majority for once in my life. Like I was always a minority.
Yeah.
But coming back, which was the shock of my life, is that I still felt like a minority.
Yeah. Why is that? I mean,
I didn't know. I was a bit confused about the communication because I didn't study in Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't understand a lot of things that people were saying when they were talking.
Yeah.
The food, there were new dishes that was introduced to me that I didn't understand. Like, why is this Saudi? But the Saudi food I knew was from Hijaz region, from Mecca region.
Okay.
But there's also Najd region, the north, the south.
Everybody's got their own way of doing things.
Exactly. I was not introduced to that. My parents just cooked Hijazi food.
Yes.
So I thought Hijaz food was Saudi Arabia food.
Mm-hmm.
But that was not the case when I came back. And
right.
A lot of things that was not I was expecting, and
sub-regions
it was the opposite.
And subcultures and sub-dishes.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. The shock of my life was it was Saudi National Day when I first came back to Saudi Arabia, and there was like an event, and they were selling, they displayed like Saudi food.
Okay.
And one of the dishes that I tried, it looked interesting, and she gave me a little bit to taste, and I tasted it, and I was like, "What is this? Which country is this from?"
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me like in shock, like she's like, "Are you Saudi?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "This is jarish."
Yeah. There's two
this
kinds
is
of
Saudi. and that was the wake up call of me when I came back to Saudi Arabia back in 2000.
Yeah.
That was like someone gave me a slap on my face.
Really?
And I was like, why don't I know this? Of course, when I came back to Saudi Arabia, I was very lost.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like a minority.
Okay.
I didn't know how to continue to be a daughter of an ambassador. I want to give back to my country.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how.
Yeah.
So it all started when a friend of mine who studied with me in university, she came and, she sent me an email. At that time, there was no WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
And when we used to still check our emails.
Yeah.
So she sent an email and she said, "Eman, I have work with Dar al-Hikmah University in Jeddah for a month." And coincidentally, by coincidence, I was working in Dar al-Hikmah University. There was an affiliation between the universities. She's like, "I'm coming with two of my friends, foreign friends, and we're going to be there for a month. Can you please advise us what can we do in Saudi Arabia?" And I was like, "Just come and don't worry." And I was like, now it's my role to be a daughter of an ambassador and show her my country and how proud I am. And that's exactly what happened. She came for a month. And when she came, she's like, "Eman, I have a YouTube channel." Back in 2010, YouTube was like, 5-6 years old. It was still very new.
Yeah,
and
still a new concept.
Exactly. And she was like, "I have a YouTube channel and I want to do Saudi dishes and put it on YouTube." And I was like, show my face on YouTube? There was no Saudi women that showed their face on social media at that time, back in 2008 around.
Yeah.
And I was like, me show my face? Oh my God! Like I have to ask my husband.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, social norms
it
back
was
then
not
were not what they are today.
the only Saudi women that would show their face on anywhere was on the news.
Yeah.
But online, no, it was not. And I got a bit like, I was like hesitant. And then I was like, I need to ask my husband. So I went and asked my husband. I was like, it's okay. I go show my face on YouTube. Yeah. Hi, is it normal? And he's like, do what you want. He's a Miami boy. So he's very chill.
All right.
He's like, do what you want. I said, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. I'll wear my abaya. I'll put my tarha, introduce my clothes and my outfits and things like that. And that's what we did. Of course, I didn't know how to make Saudi food. So I had to call my mom. I had to call my sisters. How do you make salik? How do you make sambusa?
All right.
And then how do you make shakshuka? At that time, I used to think shakshuka was Saudi.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. That's how little
Well,
I...
like shakshuka. There's like 3 ways of making shakshuka.
Yeah, authentically. It's not Saudi
Yeah.
tradition. I
Yeah.
mean, it's more, I think, Turkish or something.
I'd say it's
like that.
Mediterranean.
Exactly.
That's the
It's
thing. There's a lot of dishes that everybody says it's ours. It's Mediterranean.
Exactly.
It's this food of the region.
Yeah.
You know?
And, and that's how it started. She posted the videos
Mhm.
and it was a big hit. Like,
Yeah.
people were like, whoa, she's Saudi. You're in Saudi Arabia. And my friend Alia, she introduces Moroccan dishes.
Okay.
And she has a YouTube channel. And she hosted me on her channel
Okay.
to introduce Saudi dishes, basically.
All right.
After and before she leaves, she was like, Iman, why don't you start a YouTube channel?
Okay.
And nobody knows anything about Saudi culture.
Mhm.
It's very easy. And, all you need to do is get a Canon camera and press record with a
Mhm.
stand. And
Yes.
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way of doing it.
And that's how it all started.
Yes.
And that's when my journey for social media started.
So what was the Saudi dish that you decided would be the ambassador of Saudi cuisine at that time? Because you said you were calling, asking how you make sabi.
It was all Hijazi food.
Yeah?
It's not
What was
like-
it?
So I did like the first dish I did. I'm trying to remember. Shurbat al-hab.
Okay.
I did shurbat al-hab.
Okay.
And I took the dishes, of course, from the recipe from my mom.
Mhm.
I did a dessert called sogadana.
Okay.
Do you know it?
Maybe with
It's
another name.
tapioca.
Okay.
Tapioca with,
Alright.
it's like a dessert. It's very famous from Mecca.
Okay.
I did mantu.
Mantu, yeah.
Akil,
Mantu.
it's food from the Hijaz region.
Yeah.
I did.
But other parts of the world also make mantu. And it's even called mantu.
Yeah. Manti in Turkey, there's different kinds. Everyone has their own different flavors. Even when I traveled to Georgia, they have a dish that looks like mantu.
Yes.
But their way is like it's like a big ball.
Yeah.
It's not like it's different. It's the same ingredients, but different
Spices are different way of
spices.
preparing it. See, I think that's also what makes the Hijazi kitchen unique, because Hijaz was a port city, so it's open to all sorts of cultures. So it was able to get that influence
Exactly.
and twist and turn things to their own.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
pilgrims.
Yeah.
I mean, for more than 100 years, people kept coming from around the world, and they stayed in Hijaz region, in Jeddah and Mecca, Medina, and they brought their culture with them. So in Hijaz region, we actually have 3 cuisines.
Okay.
We have the Hijazi food.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Indonesian food we call Javanese.
Call it what?
Javanese.
Javanese.
Javanese food.
Okay.
Akil Jawi.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It
Yes.
originally came from Indonesia.
All right.
And then we have the Bukhari,
Bukhari. Yes.
Uzbekistan, and all these
Which
Bukhars.
is synonymous across the whole
They
kingdom.
brought their culture with
That is lunch for
Exactly.
everybody.
Exactly. So, and now there's a third cuisine that's being introduced in Hijaz region, which is Thai food.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you go to Indonesia, the Indonesian food there is different than the Indonesian
Obviously.
food. We have the akil jawi.
Yeah.
It's different than here. They don't taste the same. It's the same concept, but it's been so modified. Like it moved all the way here. It became
Saudiized.
Saudi
Saudiization in
exactly,
cuisine.
exactly.
All right.
And and it's very diverse. It's like a melting pot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when your friend asked you to, I mean, what your friend recommended that you start a YouTube channel, and you got the blessing and green light from your husband and family and everything. What did you give us a little snapshot of what you did to start your channel? And also at that time I remember when we were talking to you, you started at that. You were experimenting more with international cuisines, and then you shifted to traditional. So, what made you, want to highlight Saudi cuisine on your channel, basically?
Yeah, I wanted to continue being an ambassador for my
Yeah.
country,
Okay.
and I didn't know how. I was very lost. I came back to Saudi Arabia in 2000.
Okay.
And it was like, what am I going to do now? Like, I want to do something that really continue this path that I
Okay.
started since I was born. And when I did the first video with my friend Alia,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and she told me to start a YouTube channel. I felt a spark there. I felt that's how I'll continue being an ambassador.
All right.
I'll introduce the Saudi culture through food
Okay.
in English.
Yeah. Why English?
I didn't study in Arabic. That
Okay.
was one of the first reasons why.
That's I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reason why we have
I
why I have my English podcast.
I
but,
couldn't speak Arabic very well.
All right.
People would make fun of me. They think I'm not Saudi because my accent was so bad and my Arabic was so bad.
Okay.
They thought I was a foreigner raised in and lived in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason is that I wanted to continue being an ambassador for my country to the world.
Okay.
So the common language was English, and I continued doing it in English. I thought I had a strength where mostly other Saudis don't have, is that I'm very fluent in English, and I was able to send out the message properly. So I started my YouTube channel, and I realized that it was not just about food.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people who converted to Islam, I remember the story, and they would write like their stories in the description under the video, and they're like, we're two couples from Poland,
mm-hmm.
and we converted to Islam.
All right.
And we want to not only convert to Islam, but we also want to live the culture and do the same food that you guys cook.
All right.
So thank you for this channel in English.
It
helps
themselves and everything.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the Saudis who used to go to America and abroad to study in English, and they get homesick and they want to cook Saudi food. Mm-hmm. It was easy for them to learn English and make Saudi food.
Okay.
They
take two birds in one stone.
Exactly.
Speak the language, fill my belly up.
Exactly. And also you have all these expats who were raised and lived in Saudi Arabia, but they unfortunately had to go back home. And they don't know how to make the recipes of Ruz Bukhari and Kabsa and all that. They don't know. There was no channel on YouTube that introduces the Saudi food the authentic way, and it's in English.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized I was adding a lot of value to people's lives. It was not just about food. It was about connecting.
Okay.
The food with the culture. It was about adding value to people's lives.
Okay.
And it was just more than food. It was not just cooking. Okay. It was changing people's lives and kind of making people experience. And one of the other stories, for example, that one of my followers wrote in YouTube. So there is a pub in the UK, a pub.
Okay.
Oh, and I was like, astaghfirullah. So anyway, every Friday he would make my kabsa dish.
Okay.
And he sent me a message and he's like, hi, Chef Eman, I do your kabsa dish in my pub every Friday.
Okay.
And it's such a big hit. And thank you so much. And that's where I realized I am spreading the culture.
Yeah.
I am teaching people how to, what is Saudi Arabia is really about. And this is, I used to cook in my kitchen, and I used to cook sometimes with my kids, sometimes without my kids. And it's a message telling people, I'm Saudi.
Okay.
This is how we look. My kitchen is the same as your kitchen.
Okay.
My kids are the same as your kids because
we're people at the end of the day.
Yeah. At that time, people used to think Saudi Arabia is like the princess book, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconception of how Saudis live. When I was living abroad, they would think we're living in tents and we ride camels.
Yes. Everybody thought I'd get an oil well for my birthday.
Exactly. and I needed to show this side. It's the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's a small lens in my house. It's my kitchen. We live the same way you guys live.
Yeah.
We have the same setup kitchen as you guys. So there was a lot of inside messages to educate the world what Saudi Arabia is really about.
Okay.
And that kind of like helped me kill that misconception of what people that we live in tents and we ride camels. No, we have a home. We live in, we have cars. We have kitchens like yours, and we have pots like you. So there was a lot of communication, indirect messages that I was sending out in my channels.
All right. So let's get back to your kitchen, which you described as your canvas, and you are an artist, and your dishes are your artistic expression, and the end result is an artwork.
It is.
Why do you have, what's your philosophy behind that? Why do you, explain it that way, basically?
How it helps me in the kitchen?
Yeah.
It does, because plating food
is an art form.
Exactly. It's an art.
Okay.
And knowing how to put different colors of foods and contrasting foods and putting it together in a plate with the traditional items and traditional spoons and the old pots, and putting it all together and making it colorful. That's what an artist likes to do. It helped me a lot. It gives me a perception how to make the food look so nice and so colorful.
Okay. And so let's just, while we still have a little bit of time, let's talk about your book, Mandala, and some of your work, which is reintroducing Saudi pottery. Give us a little snapshot of all this work that you've done.
I like to always do something that nobody has done before.
Yeah.
So started the YouTube channel. I was the first Saudi, أعوذ بالله من كلمة أنا, God forbid from the word me.
Okay.
I don't like to say me a lot, but I started the first Saudi channel that introduces Saudi culture to the world.
Okay.
And I was the first Saudi female to show my face on YouTube.
Okay.
So that gives me a boost. I like to do things very differently.
You want to be a pioneer.
Exactly. And many people who are in social media or chefs, they actually, what do they do when they, get into the food business? They open a restaurant.
Of course.
And I don't want to, usually.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something different. So I did a mandala book.
Okay.
A Saudi mandala. Mandala is a general term used around the world. It's a coloring book for adults.
Okay.
And it's a meditation book. And the idea is that you introduce different objects, and the coloring is very detailed. So you have here a saj. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a saj.
It's where you make the nice saj bread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the item of the saj, and there's a small description of what it is.
All right.
This is in English. We have it in Arabic as well. It's sold online. And we have how we pronounce it in Arabic, and the name in English, and the name in Arabic.
Okay.
And you end up coloring these small details, these things, patterns. It's all Saudi patterns.
Okay.
So I used the Saudi patterns, and I've used the traditional Saudi items to do the mandala book. And you can choose any item you want to color. This is al-burma. This is a rock pot. It's made out of rock. We have something similar over there, which is called the magla.
All right, let me go get it.
Okay.
And this is trying to show.
Yes.
We're spontaneous.
So this is the wooden handle for the kleja.
Kleja.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know kleja very well. You're from Qasim.
Yes, exactly. My dad, God rest his soul, used to call the Belgian waffles or kleja Belgique, so it's like Belgian.
Yeah.
Kleja. So this is the pot that you were talking about.
Yeah. It's a rock pot that's made. It's handmade, by the way.
Yeah.
This is very popular in the South. I'll go back to that, but let's continue the mandala. So there you have different items. Tamriya. The
Yeah.
tamriya is where you put the tamur,
Yeah.
the dates
serve the
inside,
dates.
and here there's a small like tray where you put the seeds.
Mhm.
So I designed it, and mandala, you can find it everywhere.
Yeah.
But no one has ever done a Saudi mandala.
Okay. So you decided to take it upon yourself to
Yeah,
first.
so I worked on this project actually with my friend Alia,
Yeah.
who convinced me to open the YouTube channel because she did one from Morocco.
Oh, nice.
And she convinced me. So if you, in the beginning of the page here,
Mhm.
there's a small introduction about me and Alia and our
Okay.
signatures in it.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I mean, these are some of the few things that I like to do. So
Yeah.
The other thing I started is an online store
Mhm.
where I'm selling traditional pots, Saudi
Okay.
pots. So I realized when I got into the Saudi food
Mhm.
and each region, how they're so diverse. Each region, they use different pots.
Yeah.
And in the South, they use these rock pots.
Yes.
And it gets to be inherited from generation to generation. Like I've met some people in the South where they say, this pot is my great, great, great grandmother's pot. It was handed over to her daughter. And
I noticed that as well in the South. Even bee farmers inherit bees from generation to generation that produce the lovely honey that comes from the South.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people in the South, I was like, they cook in rock pots.
Mm-hmm.
They still cook in tandoors, underground ovens.
Yeah.
And I got amazed how like still in Saudi Arabia they still cook in clay pots.
Yeah.
Like that one. This is the Bukhari pot for Ruz Bukhari. In Hijaz region it's very popular. It's handmade. Mm-hmm. And this is the zir. They call it the water clay pot.
Yeah.
How our ancestors used to use it.
Okay.
So I fell in love with these things because in today's world, everyone's getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions that kept coming to my mind is that what did our ancestors used to do? Why did our grandparents hardly ever got sick? Only when they got old. Right. There were not a lot of diseases. Everyone had a lot of they were healthy.
Yeah. Everything was natural. No food had preservatives or anything.
Exactly.
If it wasn't natural, nobody ate it.
Exactly. Yeah. And why? What did they do? No. So I realized they were using natural pots. This is made out of rock. Yeah. They go take the rock from inside the mountain and they hand carve it. It takes them a whole day to do one pot. Mm-hmm. This is hand carved.
Yes. The time, dedication, and attention of craftsmanship always amazes me.
Exactly. Yeah. And it never, it doesn't leach like these natural pots. They don't leach poison or chemicals into the food.
Yes.
Like I've read an article back in the past that non-stick Teflon pans are cancerous.
Yes, I heard the same too.
And I was like, I want natural pots. I want to do what our ancestors used to do.
Okay.
I started filming these things for my followers and the engagement was so high. I realized that, we need to continue doing stuff like this so it doesn't die. Right. We don't, it doesn't become extinct.
Yes. All right. That's interesting. And before we wrap up our interview, I always ask my guests, partners of each episode, if they have a personal message to the audience watching, listening, and reading at home. What's yours before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think we have a responsibility, a message that we need to pass on to our children. It's a responsibility. We have to take ownership.
Yep.
We need to educate our kids about our food and culture. With all the modernization that's happening, we're forgetting where our roots are coming from.
Okay.
We shouldn't forget that. And having podcasts like this helps preserve this information for the next generation. So thank you for this podcast. Continue doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I always just think it's a platform for me to rant for a couple of minutes and go.
No, there is. This is going to be on YouTube forever.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's something
Oh
that
God, you said forever. Now I'm nervous. It's okay.
it is.
All right.
It's an amazing platform where you're able to, you know, preserve and put a stamp on it. So,
All right.
yeah, thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to be on the show and sharing your experiences and story with us. And before we wrap up the show, I'd like to tell the audience that the preservation of culture, our DNA, is who we are and what makes us unique and different to the rest of the world. And as you said, it's our responsibility to showcase that. And also, it bridges and narrows gaps and differences between us and other parts of the world. And I'd like to thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tune in to the one and only Mayman Show. See you later.
Bye.